Discover the amazing transformation of a chain-bound Apache woman that revealed surprising truths. Mary swiftly poured coffee, her hands trembling like the landscape outside, dry, cracked, unyielding. The diner buzzed around her, patrons caught in their own worlds, oblivious to the depths of her internal turmoil. Each clink of a cup resonated within her, a reminder of unfulfilled dreams and a legacy whispering from the shadows. Time dragged, and with every transaction she felt the weight of her grandmother's absence pressing on her chest. Her grandmother, the last glue holding together a heritage threatened by neglect. Questions circled her mind like vultures. Am I just a ghost in a world that refuses to see me? Does my art matter? Those thoughts clawed at her resolve, intensifying with every laugh and anecdote shared at tables she served. Stories that barely skimmed the surface of a culture rich with color and complexity. Mary longed to express herself, to show them the vibrant tapestry of her soul. Yet fear gripped her. Would anyone care to see, let alone understand? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The coffee machine hissed, cutting through her racing thoughts. That morning's events latched onto her, a call informing her that her grandmother had passed, and with it, the last thread of familial connection to a heritage she was just beginning to understand. Despair settled heavily over her. She was drowning in grief for the hands that had shaped her reality. Then there were the letters, the ones left behind, begging to be unearthed. Were these the keys to reclaiming what had been lost? She returned home each evening, the weight of the ranch wrapped around her like a shroud. Discovering those letters had ignited a fierce fire within her, that same fire that had once fueled her grandmother's storytelling. But then came the bitter realization, the gallery owner who had dismissed her burning passion. Indigenous art lacks sophistication, he had said, words embedding themselves in her like thorns. The burden of rejection was sharp, suffocating any flicker of hope she had managed to kindle. The thought of pushing back against the darkness terrified her. Most days, she felt like an invisible spectator in her own life, and now, after her grandmother's departure, an echo of questions haunted her. If I rise, will they notice? Will they shun me for the noise I dare to make? Rivers of doubt roared within her, each emotion battling for dominance, anger blending with confusion, sadness fused with determination. As she clutched her paintbrush, it felt like a wand or a weapon. What if she stood tall, unyielding against those who failed to see? Yet every brushstroke sent tremors of inadequacy through her. Could she seize her voice before it was swallowed whole by the world? She had to try. Hovering on the precipice of her own potential, Mary felt the ground shift beneath her, the pulse of her ancestors emboldening her. She envisioned the gallery filled with her artwork, a tapestry of color and resilience, emboldened by the tales of those who had come before her. But as anticipation melded with fear, she understood there would be no easy path. An imminent clash loomed, one where the raw truth of her identity collided with a society desperate to overlook it. The gallery awaited her. The moment to either sink or soar was approaching, and the pressure built within her. Could she dance on a tightrope of expectation? As the hours ticked along, the air thickened with uncertainty, and all she knew was that she was done being invisible. Her fingers tightened around the paintbrush, and for the first time, she dared to envision herself transformed. No longer just a ghost, she imagined a vibrant spirit moving boldly through the world. That brush was her path to liberation, a symbol of the stories clamoring for release. Days passed with an urgency that mirrored the rhythm of her beating heart. The letters, which had once felt like burdens resting on her shoulders, now danced in her mind. Each word penned by her grandmother brimmed with wisdom, secrets, and a deep understanding of self-worth that Mary yearned to embrace. She read them over and over, feeling deeper connections to her ancestry, glimpses of who she could become if she only dared to break free from societal constraints. These writings became her lifeline, offering clarity and direction. One night, illuminated by the soft glow of a single bulb in her cramped studio, Mary confronted herself in the mirror. Beneath the fatigue and uncertainty, she caught the reflection of a woman transformed, someone deserving of the space she occupied in this world. Those words, once static and bound to paper, ignited a fire within her. They urged her to push against the walls of doubt that had tightly constrained her spirit. On the eve of the gallery exhibition, she stood before a blank canvas. The fear that had dogged her footsteps now propelled her forward. Each stroke released fragments of her identity that had long been suppressed. Colors whirled, emotions surged, and visions of her grandmother's laughter infused every layer. This wasn't just art. It was an act of rebellion against a society that had tried to define her. This was a declaration of existence. Yet the specter of that gallery owner hovered over her, words dull and cutting. Indigenous art lacks sophistication. Each recall chipped away at her courage, threatening to stifle her newly kindled fire. But with each stroke, she chose to remember that art transcended mere preference. It was an expression of the self, a raw presentation of life's experiences. That spark lit a determination in her, an imperative to challenge norms with her own narrative. The next day brought an unsettling mix of excitement and dread. Attendees trickled into the gallery, their chatter vibrating against her skin as she busied herself, adjusting frames and smoothing down creases in her display. With each smile and nod, she felt tethered to the ground beneath her, fear wrestling for dominance with hope. What if they dismissed her work like that man had done? Would it flatten her spirit once again? Or was this a new beginning, an invitation to rise? Just as the doors opened wide, her heart raced. Colorful canvases hung proudly, a chorus of voices echoing the strength of those who came before her. Recognition flickered in a few eyes, glimpses of unguarded interest that sent jolts of energy through her veins. Was that applause she heard, or merely the sound of her own racing thoughts? But then, an unmistakable figure strode through the threshold, the gallery owner, stepping confidently toward her work. His presence sent a jolt of apprehension racing through her body. Would he even acknowledge her? Or would that arrogance once again cover the brilliance of her expression with a heavy shroud? This was the moment she had anticipated, where her art's worth would be questioned, judged, or embraced. As she squared her shoulders against mounting trepidation, feeling every eye in the room weigh her down, Mary heard her own heart whisper, "This is my time to rise." And just as she braced for his response, a stranger asked her a question that unraveled everything she thought she understood about herself. "What does this piece mean to you?" In that moment, time froze. Courage and uncertainty locked in a perpetual dance, and she realized the question held the potential to redefine not only her art, but her very existence. The path ahead, could it lead to a deeper connection or further rejection? Suddenly the answers loomed with even greater intensity, pulling her into the unknown depths of her own truth. Mary stood there, her paintbrush poised mid-air, as the weight of the stranger's question settled around her like a shroud. What did this piece mean to her? The gallery, filled with voices and laughter, dimmed, turning her focus inward. Her heart raced, each beat echoing an urgency she had barely acknowledged before. In that moment of suspension, she closed her eyes, stepping back from the canvas as if to look at her work from a distance. Colors conjoined in a dialogue of their own, weaving through layers of pain and joy, illuminating the forgotten parts of her story. Art had always been her refuge, the silent witness to her struggle, but now it was asking her to elevate her voice, to define her narrative rather than let others define it for her. As she stood silently, memories of her grandmother began to swirl in her mind, filling the silence with whispers of resilience and strength. It was about more than just paint and canvas. It was a connection to her heritage, the collective struggle of women who had come before her, their dreams often snuffed out but never extinguished. The realization grew within her. This piece represented a reclamation of her identity. "I learned to craft my voice through each brushstroke," she finally said, her voice surprisingly steady. "This piece, like me, is a weaving of stories, mine, my grandmother's. It confronts the narratives painting our identities as simplistic or inadequate." The stranger nodded, a spark of recognition flickering in their eyes. Their response fueled her, and she continued to speak, feeling courage flow through her veins. Every color embodies a facet of my journey. The anger, the joy, the longing, it's all in there. I can't tell you how it will be received, but I can tell you what it means to me." With every word she uttered, barriers erected by self-doubt waned, and steely resolve hardened within her. The gallery owner, still present, shifted slightly as if he was absorbing something he hadn't anticipated. Her voice took on a powerful cadence as each declaration uncoiled the latent energy she had kept bottled inside. This was her declaration of independence, an assertion of the unyielding spirit that coursed through her veins. Each question posed to her by others morphed from a prompting for validation to inviting herself to reflect on her journey and beliefs. She answered each one with an authenticity that thrilled her. It was as if she were unveiling layers of her soul that had long been hidden by life's demands and constraints. Minutes turned into an eternity, yet in that fleeting time, Mary began to feel something shift, not only in the way others perceived her work, but in how she perceived herself. The applause that followed felt like an electric pulse resonating through her, sending currents of freedom soaring through her spirit. But just as she began to bask in this newfound recognition, her eyes met the gallery owner's. He had been quiet, leaning in, listening, yet his expression remained inscrutable. His approval or dismissal still loomed like a dark cloud, threatening to rain on her moment of clarity. She could not let that happen. Mary inhaled deeply, steel entering her spine. She would not allow someone else's opinion to diminish the truth that she had just claimed. This was her art, her truth, her time. Now she had to confront him again, not just as an artist but as a woman who had just begun to discover her voice within a world that wished to silence it. "Do you still believe what you said before?" she asked, stepping confidently toward him, energy surging in every fiber of her being. The air was thick with anticipation, and dread still clung to her heart. Would she withstand this encounter? What awaited at the brink of that conversation? Would this moment amplify her newly claimed strength, or would it challenge her convictions yet again? She braced herself, ready for whatever came next, knowing that either outcome would push her further along the path of self-discovery. The moment of truth was about to emerge. The gallery's vibrant atmosphere transformed into a crucible of tension as Mary confronted the gallery owner. The applause faded away, leaving behind a suffocating silence thick with unspoken judgments and expectations. She felt her heart thud against her ribs, the anticipation of his response electrifying the air around them. He raised an eyebrow, his expression indecipherable. For a fleeting moment, doubt wormed its way back into her consciousness. What if he dismissed her? What if he reinforced the insecurities she had only just managed to shed? Yet, in the embers of that fear, she found a flicker of resolve. This wasn't merely an inquiry, it was an assertion of her identity, a reclamation of her narrative. "I'm asking because the essence of art lies in authenticity," he said slowly, measuring each word. "Does this piece reflect your truth, your journey, or is it more about how you wish to be seen?" His question was sharp, cutting through the layers of self-deception she had worn like armor. It incited a swirling mix of emotions within her. She had spent too long crafting a facade, molding her narrative to fit a mold others had created. This was the moment to lay that asunder. "My journey is messy and complicated," she replied, her voice stronger now, echoing the clarity she had just found. "It's the anger and joy, the longing and fear all pouring out onto the canvas. It's me, raw and unfiltered. It's a constant push against the societal boundaries that want to box me in." The gallery owner's eyes glinted with intrigue, and she took that as a cue to delve deeper. She shifted her weight, planting her feet firmly. "I spent years trying to paint what I thought would please audiences or fit categories. Those years felt like chains binding me. But tonight, I'm shedding those chains. My voice matters, whether you decide to show it or not." His face was impassive at first, but as Mary spoke, she noticed subtle shifts, almost like cracks forming in a rigid exterior. Her words captured echoes of her grandmother's voice, those stories of pain transformed into strength. She saw it. This wasn't just about her art. It was a battle between the oppressive silence of their shared past and the burgeoning freedom of her present. "Art doesn't exist in a vacuum," he began cautiously, "but to truly resonate, it needs to come from a place of honesty." His words carried weight, the dichotomy of judgment and encouragement intertwining. Mary thought of the countless drafts, the time she layered paint to hide her imperfections, and the sheer effort it took to silence her inner critic. If honesty is what you're looking for, then this piece reflects not only my story, but our collective struggle as women. It's a confrontation of the narratives we've internalized. She paused, allowing the gravity of those words to settle. The gallery owner's gaze sharpened, as if he were finally seeing the essence of her work, perhaps even contemplating the potential within it. "Do you think people are ready to confront their own narratives?" he asked, a genuine curiosity creeping into his voice. "That's exactly why I'm here," she admitted, her heart racing. "To provoke thought and dialogue, even discomfort. If art doesn't make you question, then what's the point? I am standing here not just to show art, but to ignite recognition of what lies beneath the surface." As she spoke, she felt the chains that had once bound her begin to crumble. The walls she had carefully constructed around her identity and voice were now replaceable with the liberating understanding that she could articulate the very essence of who she was. But then, just as a flicker of hope illuminated her spirit, he hesitated, pulling back into a realm of uncertainty. "Mary, let's say I see value in your honesty. The market, however, may disagree." The dark cloud re-emerged, casting a shadow over her newfound strength. Would she allow fear to suffocate her once again? "Then I will create a space for dialogue," she asserted, unyielding. "I'm not compromising my truth for validation anymore. I'm just getting started." The gallery owner regarded her, perhaps weighing his options, and in that moment, Mary realized her battle was not solely with his assessment, but with the lingering doubts in her mind, and how she would choose to move forward. Would she continue to fight for her narrative, or would market realities chain her again? The air crackled with tension as she awaited his response, a needle-threaded moment between possibility and fear hanging in the balance. What revelation lurked behind his next words? Would they be the catalyst for her next leap into artistic autonomy? Or would they tether her back to the fear she had fought so hard to escape? The gallery owner's gaze shifted, revealing a glimmer of something. Perhaps acknowledgement, or perhaps mere curiosity. The silence stretched, heavy with possibility. Mary sensed his struggle, the conflict inherent in being part of a commercialized art world while yearning for genuine expression. His hesitation spoke volumes as her pulse quickened. The moment hung, filled with potential and peril. "What if," he began slowly, "you took this piece further? What if you curated a series that dives deeper into these narratives?" Her heart raced as the sheer audacity of his suggestion sparked an unexpected surge of excitement. A series. She hadn't considered it, hadn't allowed herself to envision something broader. The idea felt exhilarating and terrifying, like standing on the edge of a precipice, peering into the unknown. "Yes," he pressed, a hint of enthusiasm creeping into his voice. "Art that showcases not just your experience but resonates with others. Perhaps even involve other women, each with their own unique story woven into the fabric of your own." The possibilities unfolded in her mind, blurring the lines of what she initially thought her art was supposed to be. This wasn't merely about her anymore. It was about a movement, a manifestation of the collective voice she had been yearning for but hadn't yet articulated. "I can't speak for anyone but myself," she replied carefully. "Is it authentic if I project others' narratives through my lens?" "It can be," he countered, a flicker of challenge in his eyes. "As long as you are honest about it and invite those stories into your space. Collaborate. Let the authenticity of their narratives intermingle with yours. Isn't that the essence of what you're fighting for?" Mary stared into the depths of his proposition, grappling with the swirling emotions within her. His words ignited an ember in her mind, teasing at the edges of something revolutionary. The stark dichotomy of isolation and togetherness reverberated through her. She envisioned a space filled with myriad stories, each voice lending color to her palette, shaping her work into something deeper than mere personal expression. But what if it fell flat? What if she failed to do justice to their experiences? "In theory it sounds perfect," she said, her voice trembling with uncertainty. "In practice, what if I misrepresent someone? The stakes feel impossibly high." "Then it's your responsibility to understand them," he replied firmly. "Engage with their journey. Let your audience see the process of collaboration, the raw, the real, the imperfect. You openly navigating this complexity could become a work of art in itself. There it was, reflected in the intensity of his gaze, the challenge she had long ached for. The weight of the fear she clutched so tightly began to shrink. The improbability of failure and the potential for success blurred, creating a dazzling kaleidoscope of possibilities. Mary took a breath, grounding herself in the moment. "If I move forward, I want to do it fully, no compromises," she declared, feeling a surge of conviction. "I won't become a curator of others' suffering. I want to collaborate in authenticity, not appropriation." A smile broke across the gallery owner's face, a hint of admiration in his features. "That's the spirit I hope to see. But remember, authenticity requires vulnerability and humility. Are you ready to expose yourself to criticism that may arise from this?" The sting of skepticism lingered in her mind, but it paled in comparison to the burgeoning determination blooming within her. She could feel her feet firmly planted on this path, ready to explore the contours of her voice and those of others. "Yes," she replied resolutely, "I am ready to embrace the vulnerability." As she felt the rush of commitment, the air shifted once more, imbued with a new energy that stirred her ideas into motion. The gallery owner nodded, clearly considering her resolve and the implications of her new vision. Yet, as anticipation for the next steps flooded her, a nagging thought emerged. Could she truly unite her truth with others without diluting their strength? Did she possess the skill to amplify rather than overshadow? Determined to uncover those answers, she glanced around the gallery, now alive with the palpable excitement of their shared conversation. It felt like standing at the precipice of a vast uncharted ocean, and she yearned to dive in. What stories awaited her? What truths could intertwine with her own? Would she be able to give voice to those narratives as fear threatened to resurface? With the waspish sting of anxiety now competing with exhilaration, Mary knew one thing for certain. This journey was just beginning, and she had to chart the course herself. Would she seize the opportunity at hand, or allow her doubts to glimmer like shadows, disrupting the sacred space she hoped to create? In the days that followed her pivotal meeting with the gallery owner, Mary found herself in a whirlwind of thoughts, ideas, and anxieties. The excitement of embarking on a new path blended seamlessly with the gnawing doubts that always seemed to linger just below the surface. She spent hours in her studio, the once familiar space now feeling like a sanctum shrouded in uncertainty. Each brushstroke felt heavy with the weight of her intentions, a physical manifestation of her resolve to forge new connections through art. Mary began reaching out to women within her community, seeking stories that resonated with her own. She wanted narratives that captured struggles and triumphs, tales that intertwine with hers like threads in a tapestry. With each conversation, she felt the thrill of understanding emerge. The deeper she delved, the more her apprehension gave way to a sense of purpose. She realized each woman possessed a distinct voice, filled with experiences ready to be amplified, and that she could act as a conduit rather than merely a curator. Yet the responsibility loomed large. What if her interpretations fell short? What if her desire to uplift overshadowed the authenticity of those she sought to represent? As Mary engaged in discussions, she consciously navigated the delicate line between empathetic resonance and potential exploitation. Questions swirled in her mind. Would the stories she collected retain their integrity when reflected through her lens? Was she equipped to shoulder the burden of others' truths in her art? One evening, as Mary sat across from Julia, a local chef who had faced tremendous obstacles in her rise to prominence, the realization struck her. Her doubts were part of the journey. Julia spoke passionately about her experiences, her eyes alive with conviction and heartbreak. It lit a fire inside Mary. She felt a rush of inspiration surging through her veins, eclipsing her fears. By inviting these narratives into her own creative process, she acknowledged their sanctity and pledged to honor each woman's story with dignity. But after their discussion, as Mary gazed at her blank canvas, a new tension gripped her. How could she begin to translate their experiences into her art? Imagery swirled in her mind, flashes of colors and shapes representing strength, resilience, and beauty. Yet uncertainty overshadowed this vision. Could she accurately capture the essence of Julia and the women she wished to celebrate? Or would her portrayal stray into the realm of caricature? With every doubt, a resolve began to grow. She made a pact with herself to create not as a solitary artist, but as one who belonged within a mosaic of shared stories. That night, she began sketching, allowing the converging paths of her experiences, Julia's, and the voices of others to intertwine. Slowly, shapes emerged, abstract forms that spoke of unity without sacrificing individuality. In the weeks that followed, Mary felt her confidence blossom. Each conversation invited a revelation, amplifying her initial vision. She started organizing gatherings, a unique blend of brainstorming sessions and informal dialogues, where women could share, create, and inspire. The gallery owner, intrigued by her evolution and embracing the concept, agreed to host one of these sessions. The preparations ignited her nerves, sparking a divergent mixture of exhilaration and fear. Would the outcome reflect the authenticity she aimed for, or would it falter under the scrutiny of those she hoped to uplift? As the gathering day approached, Mary was struck by an unsettling realization. It was no longer solely about her journey. It was about honoring a collective narrative. This realization left her breathless, exposing an essential truth. Vulnerability complemented strength, and collaboration, while messy, could birth something profound. Would her efforts dissolve the lingering doubts of potential failure? Or would she emerge from this journey not just as a voice but as a true ally ready to embrace the complexities of sharing narratives? With that thought hanging in the air, she prepared to step into this new reality, her heart racing with palpable anticipation. What would happen when the moment of truth arrived, and she had to confront not only her fears but the very essence of collaboration? The day of the gathering arrived with a chaotic energy that pulsed through Mary. She stood in her studio, surrounded by vibrant canvases, the fruits of her recent inspiration, each piece waiting to tell a story. Her heart drummed in her chest, not just from excitement, but from a fear that gnawed at her from within. What if she couldn't capture the essence of the stories entrusted to her? The stark contrast between the stillness of her empty canvas and the stories she carried felt almost surreal. As she set up the space, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the air, mingling with the scent of paint. She arranged chairs in a circle, a deliberate formation intended to foster openness. This was not merely a gathering, it was a crucible of voices evolving into an artwork of shared experience. Yet with each chair placed, her doubts persisted, clouding her thoughts. Would the energy of conversation flourish? Would her artistic vision translate the gravity of their lives, or would her efforts merely skim the surface? Promptly at 10, the first woman arrived, a therapist named Lena, whose work centered on trauma recovery. Her demeanor was calm, but Mary could sense the strength beneath her composed exterior. They exchanged pleasantries, and Mary found herself drawn in by Lena's calmness, a stark contrast to the storm swirling inside her. As others began to trickle in, the gathering morphed from a personal endeavor into a tapestry of rich experiences, each woman pooling their narratives into the space. Through stories of heartache and triumph, laughter and tears, the gathering soon transformed into a rhythmic exchange. Mary listened intently, keenly aware of each nuance in their voices, their body language echoing the long-lingering scars and soaring achievements alike. It was then that she realized a pivotal shift had occurred. She was no longer just an artist seeking inspiration. She was an amplifier of differing yet fundamentally human experiences. As the afternoon unfolded, Mary encouraged each participant to share their unique perspectives on resilience. One woman spoke of her reticent journey through depression. Another described her challenges as an immigrant finding her place in a new home, and yet another narrated her triumph in overcoming the obstacles of gender bias in her profession. Mary absorbed their words and began to see the skeletal structures of her forthcoming artwork materialize. Each tale woven together seemed to pulsate with common threads of struggle and hope. Yet as the gathering swelled with shared narratives, a deep-seated anxiety flickered within her. Was she doing justice to their truths? Were her inquiries sufficiently probing without steering them into uncomfortable territory? That's when a realization hit her, ignited by a particular phrase from Lena. Every story holds power, but the art comes from knowing how to respect that power. That was the crossroads she needed, a pivotal moment not only for her artistic journey, but her professional development. She recognized her role was not merely to depict, but to engage meaningfully and authentically with each story. Her canvas would serve as a vessel for their voices, not a mere facade for her vision. With renewed clarity, Mary began to sketch ideas in her mind, energetic colors, dynamic shapes, all reflecting the visceral emotions she witnessed today. She felt a warm determination rise within her, pushing back the shadows of uncertainty that had loomed over her art. As the gathering wound down, the women expressed gratitude for creating a space where their stories could breathe. Mary felt a surge of mission blend with relief. This was a creation born of genuine connection, not just about solitary efforts. Yet despite their encouragement, lingering doubts silently taunted her. Every story shared was a reminder of the weight she had accepted. How would she begin to honor these narratives on the canvas? Would her work represent a betrayal rather than an homage? And as the evening dimmed, leaving behind a chorus of shared laughter and tears, Mary confronted the hardest question of all. Would she be able to embrace the complexities of collaboration, or would her personal fears bind her tighter than she had ever anticipated? With these thoughts swirling, she stepped out into the cool night air, her heart racing with anticipation not just for what was to come, but for the artistic journey ahead. The moment of truth loomed near, and she was prepared to meet it head-on. But would her commitment to authenticity guide her through the unknown? The night air was crisp, carrying the whispers of the past while igniting a fierce anticipation for what lay ahead. Mary stepped away from her studio, her mind alight with the stories shared, yet painfully aware of the looming challenges that awaited her. Each woman's tale had forged new pathways in her mind, yet they also burrowed into her insecurities. What if the canvas became a battleground for her fears rather than a tribute to their courage? Although she had engaged them authentically, Mary grappled with a feeling of inadequacy creeping through her resolve. The stories echoed within her, demanding to be honored properly. She paced her dimly lit living room, fragments of the women's narratives swirling like fireflies, illuminating moments of insight, pain, and resilience. Could she, an artist, genuinely encompass not just their stories, but the essence of their experiences in her work? Mary retrieved her sketchbook, the pages blank, yet brimming with potential. She settled into her favorite chair and traced her fingers along the hard, unyielding cover, drawing a line back to her artistic aspirations. What did it mean to be vulnerable as an artist, to allow her own fears to throng alongside the triumphs of those she sought to represent? Taking a deep breath, she began to sketch. Lines flowed from her pencil as a whirlwind of color emerged on the page. But as she created, the familiar specter of doubt loomed larger. Was she infusing her own biases into the artwork? Would her personal interpretations overshadow the authenticity of the women's experiences? Every stroke seemed to echo her hesitance back at her. In a bid to quell the self-doubt, Mary pulled out a new piece of paper and started writing. Words poured from her, a flurry of thoughts, fears, and aspirations. To honor means to understand, she wrote. To reflect without distortion, to give space to voices that are not my own. Each word felt like a small affirmation, a promise to herself to stay true to the essence of their experiences. She paused, her pen hovering. Yet, how do I traverse the line between representation and appropriation? The question lingered. In every brushstroke she imagined, she was terrified of losing the authenticity of the narratives. What if her version of their stories became an oversimplified retelling, neglecting the depth and complexity of lived experiences? Sitting in silence, the weight of the challenge washed over her. Yet within that weight, she felt a flicker of resolve. Could she invite those women back into the conversation as co-creators? What if she shared her drafts, sought their feedback, opened dialogue about her interpretation of their truths? This idea sparked something in her, the allure of collaboration reshaping her approach toward honoring their stories. With renewed vigor, Mary returned to her sketches and words, subconsciously shifting her focus from a solitary artist to an integral part of a collective act of creation. Yet what would happen if they were not receptive? What if they viewed her art as a betrayal rather than an homage? That thought coiled tightly in her chest, mingling with a burgeoning excitement for the potential of collaboration. As dawn crept into her studio, the essence of the stories imbued her workspace with a sense of purpose. Her heart quickened as she contemplated her next step. Would she summon the courage to reach out, to embrace both vulnerability and authenticity as an artist? And in doing so, would she invite their understanding and critique, risking their potentially harsh feedback? She felt the stirring of resolve. The time had come to face those fears, not as a solitary figure but as a facilitator of shared narratives. With her heart pounding, she grabbed her phone, preparing to bridge the gap between her visions and theirs. The moment of truth was upon her. Would she dare to transform her practice into a collaborative journey, or would she retreat into the safety of isolation, forsaking the very authenticity she longed to achieve? Mary's fingers trembled slightly as she hovered over her phone, the potential fallout of her decision weighing heavy on her mind. The clock ticked loudly in the stillness of her studio, mocking her indecision. She had made countless choices in her life, but this one felt seismic. It marked the blurry boundary between her vision and the intricate tapestry of other women's experiences. Taking a deep breath, she scrolled through her contacts list until she found the name she was seeking, Lila. The Apache woman had shared her story with such vivid clarity that Mary felt the pulse of it in her very bones. Would Lila view Mary's artistic interpretation as an insult or an extension of her voice? The two emotions battled within her, frustration at the uncertainty colliding with a yearning for connection. Sending the message felt almost insurmountable. What if her initiative led to unintentional offense? As she fought with her thoughts, her mind flitted to the stories that stirred her creativity. Those moments of finality, bravery, and vulnerability. This was what she wanted to encapsulate. Drawing upon her resolve, she typed, "Hi Leela, I hope you're well. I've been reflecting on our conversation and the stories you shared. I would love to share some sketches and thoughts I have about your story, and perhaps collaborate on this project. Your feedback would mean the world to me." Pausing, she reread her message, cringing at the overt need for approval that she felt emanating from her words. It wasn't just that. What did it reveal about her own self-worth? Swallowing hard, she hit send, feeling as though she had just cast a stone into an abyss. Moments stretched into eternity as she waited. Each second reverberated with self-doubt, demanding that she assess every aspect of her existence and path as an artist. What if Lila never responded? Minutes passed before her phone chimed, piercing the dense silence of her studio. A message appeared. "Mary, I'm thrilled you want to include my story. I would love to see what you've created." The warmth of Lila's response filled Mary with a rush of gratitude, but it also heightened the stakes. Now she couldn't retreat. As the sun lazily crawled higher in the sky, Mary dove back into her work with a renewed fervor. Each sketch transformed under her pencil, taking on shapes that flowed from deep within her emotions. There was a crackle of energy in the air, a current that surged through her as she began intertwining her own story with Lila's. The lines between their narratives began to blur, which both thrilled and terrified her. Doubt loomed in the fringes, whispering questions that mocked her determination. What made her think she could ever present another woman's experiences authentically? What if she fell short of her intentions? Fighting against that spiraling fear, Mary laid all her sketches out before her, observing them as though witnessing a live performance. The colors spoke to her heart, evolving into something deeper than she had imagined. With Lila's support, she could ride this wave of creativity into uncharted territory. She enriched her sketches further, layering textures and shades that echoed the stories of resilience and strength. Yet, it still felt incomplete. She needed Lila's voice woven into the fabric of her creation, not merely as a springboard, but as a crucial thread. Taking her phone once more, she arranged a meeting for them to discuss the artwork in person. The act felt daunting. Presenting her half-formed ideas to someone whose story deserved so much more felt sacrilegious. But the thought of a true partnership, a genuine artist collaboration, invigorated her. As she tidied her workspace, every sweep of her brush felt like a step toward liberation, allowing her anxieties room to breathe. Tomorrow they would meet. Tomorrow she would confront the unknown. But in the back of her mind, a shadow crept quietly. What if Lila's truths clashed dramatically with Mary's vision? What if the collaboration unspooled the fabric of creativity rather than knit their narratives together? As the night fell once again, Mary sat amongst her sketches, vulnerability at the forefront. The moment of collaboration loomed ahead, promising growth but harboring the potential for discord. Would she be brave enough to face the revelations that awaited her? The air in Mary's studio buzzed with anticipation, a palpable energy that marked the emergence of something significant. The light from the early morning sun poured in through the window, illuminating the sketches littering her work table. Each drawing resonated with the shared stories of Lila and the other women who had opened their hearts to her. Today marked the culmination of their forged connection, a moment where the past and present collided, with Mary standing at the intersection. As she prepared for Lila's arrival, Mary felt a blend of excitement and anxiety swirling in her gut. This meeting was not merely about revealing her artistic interpretation. It was a dance of vulnerability, an authentic exchange of narratives between two women from divergent yet entwined backgrounds. It was their moment to coalesce memories into a tapestry of truth, one that would honor their shared journey rather than dilute its essence. When Lila finally entered the studio, the air shifted. Mary caught a glimpse of her bright smile, warmth radiating from her presence. She felt the tension ease slightly as they exchanged greetings, but Mary knew the true test still lay ahead. Would Lila resonate with her vision, or would it betray the stories cherished in her heart? "Thank you so much for inviting me," Lila began, her gaze sweeping over the canvases. "I'm excited to see what you've been working on." As Mary led her towards the larger piece at the center of the room, she took a deep breath. "This is my interpretation of your story," she said, pointing to the canvas teeming with vibrant colors and dynamic shapes. "It embodies resilience, as I see through the lens of both our experiences." Lila stepped closer, her brow furrowing slightly as she examined the work. Mary held her breath, anxiety bubbling up as she awaited Lila's reaction. Memories of their earlier conversations flooded back. Raw emotions, difficult moments, and triumphs. Had she captured the essence they had discussed? In a moment that felt like an eternity, Lila's expression shifted to one of deep concentration. "This is beautiful, Mary," she said slowly, her voice resonating with sincerity. "The colors reflect the complexities of our stories." Relief washed over Mary, but it was short-lived. "I'm so glad you think so," she replied, trying to gauge Lila's deeper thoughts. "But does it resonate with your experience? I want to ensure I've done it justice." A flicker of appreciation highlighted Lila's eyes. "Yes, it does. But you must always remember that while our stories intertwine, mine is still my own, filled with nuances maybe not captured here. This," she pointed to a swirling line, "this part feels like a struggle, but also a strength that I wield now. Can we talk about this more?" The next hour unfolded into a symphony of thoughts, emotions, and surprising revelations. Mary soaked in Lila's insights, taking notes on her sentiments and refining the sketches in response. They delved deep, unearthing layers previously undiscovered. Through Lila's feedback, Mary recognized the power of dialogue. She was not just the creator, but a vessel through which their experiences were honored. Ideas began flowing effortlessly between them, enhancing the original concept into a more profound expression, a collaboration that felt like an artistic awakening. "I want this piece to become a celebration of voices," Mary expressed, her mind racing as new concepts formed. "Yours, mine, and those of women who come after us. Something that invites others in, a point of connection rather than division." Lila's face brightened. "Now that's the spirit. It would be transformational. If we show our vulnerabilities, it will evoke a reaction that encapsulates our realities while connecting with a broader audience." As they continued their conversation, Mary felt the hesitations that had previously held her captive begin to dissolve. The very act of creating together, sharing the power of their identity, and coalescing ideas turned her insecurities into strength. After the discussion, they stood before the canvas that reflected both of their journeys. What had started as a solitary effort morphed into a vibrant collaboration that celebrated the complex tapestry of womanhood, evolving into something that told a story more profound than mere paint on a surface. "I couldn't have done this without you," Mary admitted, hope and gratitude weaving through her words. "You've helped me see the multidimensional aspects of our narratives." Lila smiled, the connection growing between them palpable. "We can do it together. This art can inspire change if driven by authenticity." In that moment, Mary understood the depth of their transformation. Not just her own, but the collective journey they were embarking on. With renewed purpose, she began sketching once more, this time allowing Lila's voice and vision to breathe life into the piece. As they prepared for the upcoming exhibition, thick anticipation filled both women. Their collaboration promised to shatter stereotypes and preconceived notions, bridging gaps through shared storytelling and artistry. Each brushstroke became a bold declaration, an embodiment of the power of connection, authenticity, and the courage to transcend fear. What began as Mary grappling with self-doubt had blossomed not just into a shared project, but into a recognizable voice reluctant to be silenced again. Ultimately, Mary emerged with a robust confidence, deserving of her place in the art world. She had transformed her insecurities into a powerful narrative, poised to inspire others and encourage dialogue on the complexities of identity. Today, she stood not just as an artist, but as a champion of women's stories. As they finalized preparations for the exhibition, Mary's heart swelled with unmatched pride. They had created something meaningful together, a legacy bound by courage, vulnerability, and strength, ready to be unveiled to the world. With every professional storyteller and artist, the moment came to acknowledge the ongoing journey, reflect on the power of collaboration, and invite others into a dialogue rich in meaning. Mary stepped back from the canvas, breathing in the achievement of not only her personal growth, but the empowering recognition of a shared endeavor. As preparations drew to a close, she felt at peace, unchained from the burdens that had once held her captive. This was her time, a moment of celebration, a testament to the unyielding spirit of women rising together, fiercely reclaiming their narratives. Now for you, embrace your journey in full authenticity. Transform your challenges into opportunities, share your story and celebrate the voices of those around you. You're an integral part of weaving the narrative. Don't wait. Subscribe now to the channel and be part of the unfolding exclusive stories of transformation. Leave a like to amplify these important conversations. Comment your thoughts and reactions on the journey. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who must see this conclusion. Remember, only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. The moment to act is now.